This is the Coin It Podcast, sponsored by CoinCosmo.com. Have fun like a collector. Think like an investor. Whether you're just a hobbyist or looking for an alternative investment with rare coins, paper money, NFTs, or art, your host, Charles Jonath, is covering it all. Now your host, Charles Jonath.
All right, we're here with Silver Steve Austin. Some people, they call him the BarFather. I mean, Steve, I think you're probably the foremost expert on silver art bars. I don't know anyone that knows them better than you. I've collected them since I was a kid. I growing up in a coin shop, I seen so many of these things come in, and that was like one of the first things I gravitated towards. I started out with collecting the birthday year rounds and then the birthday bars, and then got into like whenever I saw a cool logo like Coca-Cola or whatever was unique on the bar, I kept those and wanted to keep those and buy those for myself. And you've been doing this and you're like the expert. How did you get started all in bars, and what stuck out to you as like, oh my God, this is something I could really get into and I really love?
Well, I mean, first off, Charles, appreciate you having me. And
absolutely appreciate you.
And it's just, that's the fantastic thing about the hobby, even coins, notes, etc. Basically we're art collectors. It just happens to be on something other than a canvas, so right. It was the art, the themes and whatnot, just like any boy or any little girl or whatever. I mean, I'm at the age where when I was playing Little League Baseball, the Cincinnati Reds, they were a pretty big deal back then with, Pete Rose and Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, etc. And I started collecting right around 1997. And at first I wasn't really collecting. I was just getting some silver bars, like a few bars here, a few bars there, just lower price stuff, a couple dollars above, what spot would be, the price of silver and gold and whatnot. And that was fairly low. I mean, what, $12 or something a bar, or $10 a bar, $15 a bar. And then I seen the 1991 proof Cincinnati Red. That wasn't Pete Rose. That was Barry Larkin and the boys, right? But that was done by Dwayne Spillman of the Mint. He was also a big-time coin dealer. He was the Mint master and the coordinator at USSC back in the day, United States Silver Corp. But he had done some vintage 200 bars. I didn't know anything about it. I seen the proof, and it was like $75 at the time, and that's a good premium.
Oh, yeah.
But I looked into it a bit and found out there were books and guides and this and that, such as the Archie Kidd books, which were the 5th edition, real important.
Great book, very important resource.
Yeah. So I spent $75 and got the bar because, honestly, even if it wasn't worth $75, which obviously it was, I mean, hindsight's probably worth about $250 now, and it was probably worth a little bit more then. The guy did me a good deal, but that got me kind of collecting. Then a couple months later, I seen the enameled variety of that, also low mintage. I picked that up for $125, and then a couple months later on my birthday's in July, my wife actually got me, I actually have those bars right here. Those are the two right there, my first, the Cincinnati Red. And Mike Capron, MK Bars and Beyond at silverartcollector.com slabbed them for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but that's those. That's the Cincinnati Red, the proof, and the enamel.
It's cool in that. What exactly is that? They laminated it? They put it in glass?
No, this is actually a slabbed holder, okay, but a Silver Art Collector holder. A lot of, just like coin slab. Actually, Mike's going to be Sonic sealed capable pretty soon.
So it's in a plastic slab.
Yeah, it's in a plastic slab, sealed, barcode for the Silver Art Collector.
Wow.
Has the information on the top with the mintages and whatnot. Eventually, he's going to try to have it where the barcodes will take it to the website, where if a dealer, let's say, has a coin shop like back in the day and they don't know if it's something that should be in the junk bin or not, if something shows up and it's collectible, they can look it up and say, my God, that's rare. It helps everybody learn.
Right.
And then, anyhow, the big step, because when you're paying that much over 10 times spot or whatever, that's pretty big. But when you spend $375 on your first 1 ounce bar for your birthday, and that was Pete Rose, the 3000th hit, mintage 102 by the Mint, and that was a birthday present. And But once, then I was collecting. After that, I was interested. I was collecting, and the rest is history, man. I had people mentoring me, like the late Archie Kidd and a few other people, Dwayne, Ed Lance, the founder of Isaac, and Clarence Criswell and other people, and just helping me out. And that's what the community is about. You help people out. Same with coins, same with notes, same with anything,
Wow. So when did they exactly put that together? What he was referring to, by the way, is the IASAC, which is the International Association of Silver Art Collectors, right?
Yeah. International Association of Silver Art Collectors. Yeah, that was a club founded in 1985 by Ed. In
'85, okay, that's
yeah. And I think you actually got to meet Ed up in A&A just recently.
Yeah,
he was up there. Yeah. Ed was our first president, and a lot of people don't know it because a lot of people think it's different. But Will Rossman, he was one of the original 2 or 3 annex graders. Will Rossman, he's the one that designed that little white slab. Remember the annex slab?
Yeah.
And he was also Maritime Mint. He designed those bars like the Kitty Hawk, the Iowa, et cetera. But he was Isaac's second president. So wow. I'm fortunate enough to know both of those guys, and I can pick their brains, and they're really community guys. So they want the information out there because they understand, that was their vision.
Right. So the whole idea was to sort of collect the records and stuff from the different private refiners and mints, put them all together and see who made what at what time and how many were made. And sort of, you do some, like, there's provenance to this stuff, right?
Oh yeah. The main historians back in the day, Archie Kidd compiled and did the guidebooks. He was a publisher, but he was also, a collector or a dealer, and this also. But Tom Greathouse, he was Greathouse Production. He was a big time dealer back in the day. He and some of his bars are the top end, like tier 1 press bars, like some of the Greathouse, the Bambis, the Disney, the Donald Ducks, the Mickeys, etc.
Right.
And John Wayne's and whatnot. But top end, some of them are the higher end pieces. But they were historians. They started putting together. Actually, Tom put together the first real guidebook in this series, and the ones that are really used today, the kid books. Tom Greathouse and Archie did that together. Tom's name was actually first at the beginning because he's the one that did it. Archie was a publisher. But then he really didn't want to deal with all that. So he just told Archie, hey, get the ISBN, get everything, and hook up with other guys and just keep building on it. That's my understanding. So Bill Kaysen, no longer with us. Dwayne Spillman, no longer with us. Just so many people no longer with us that were historians that put in so much time and effort. And the outcome was, in the guidebooks, it's substantial. It has this one just has, I think, about 350 pages. It goes through mintages, mints, rarity values, etc. And we just have to build on all of that stuff as well. But there are numerous guidebooks, 5th, 6th, and 7th are the main ones now for the hobby. And they go by years. The 5th edition would cover like 1967 to 1991 with some overlap. The 6th edition would cover 1991 to 2007.
Wow.
And then the 7th edition, 2007 to 2020. Okay, the 7th was put out by Mike Capron, MK Bars and Bullion, and SilverArtCollector.com. But he brought Stephen Kidd, the late Archie Kidd's son, in, who was in the publishing business but not in silver. He brought him in on it and had him publish it, and just brought him in. And also Garrett Burke, big coin guy, also a big Isaac guy over the years, him and his wife both. They actually, he did all the covers for the 5th and the 6th, and the 7th is blue. It's around here somewhere. But they tried to tie it all together, and then Steven's not really into this, but he is a publisher, so he helps out whenever he can, and
that's great, man.
So basically, it made the older books available again because Mike's handling that through the MK Bars and Bullion website. So Stephen doesn't have to try to sell stuff and talk to people about a hobby that he truly doesn't understand. But,
that's the MK that does his own art bars, right? Is that correct or no? That's a different MK.
Oh yeah, no, that is the MK. Mike Capron.
Okay.
He actually
that's what I thought. Right.
He actually started off, I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago, just pouring for fun in his garage, and his wife, her brother and dad and all them, they were kind of into that, but more into the art stuff like you would have in art galleries and out in front of like big, like when you go down to Fun at the Orlando Orange County Convention Center, you see the big statues and stuff out front.
Yeah.
So that was in her family, Holly's family, and Mike
Got
and
it.
them love it. And he said, "Hey, I want to try to do this." So he started doing some and got pretty good with the sand casting and the pours and stuff. And then it just progressed into, I mean, he didn't even like the vintage stuff and the press stuff that much. He was a coin guy back in the day, and then loved doing the actual pours. And then as he learned and learned the history and learned stuff, different parts of the hobby just grew on him
It's
until
stuck.
now he has a full coinage press, and he owns silverartcollector.com, and just really trying to better the hobby, you know. And but he's bar and round capable for striking now and everything. I mean, that's when he just did recently one of his first strikes off of his
Wow.
press. It's one of the
Interesting.
nice presses like Beck's and all them have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's capable of doing really good strikes now. He's just still working on his craft like everybody, you know, like everybody.
Yeah. It's a
And
process, right? You just keep trying to work at it, get better and better. But I mean, that's, you know, the cool thing is like this whole, the silver art bar community to me is doing all the right steps. It's like what you guys got going on with the association and stuff like that, building all the records for this stuff, the provenance, and so you can really, really do the research and know exactly what you're collecting, what you're buying. There's actual records to this stuff. That's so it has all the makings of a real solid marketplace for collectibles. One, and then two, it's like the Wild Wild West. It's kind of cool because it's pretty relatively new, and you know there's not a lot of people knowing about it. I think you know it's hard because I come from the coin world, and you know you're wrapped up in coins, but the coins have been collected for so long. There's, you know, it's very well established community, and we're so in our minds about coins, 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 coins. But then, you know, discovering a whole new world of bars, you know, it's almost like you forget, like although it's been there all along. It's weird. There's that weird sort of displacement that happens. Like, I don't know, it's there, but it's not there because you're not focused on it. But that's how I came back to it. Like I fell back in love with collecting these bars and looking at stuff and starting to redo research again. And it's just, it's weird how that sort of comes full cycle. But I feel like it's a whole new world, man. Like there's tons of great bars to collect out there, and people
and it's
don't
like
know.
that every day with me. It's like that every day with me after all these years, or Rick Cortez or Chris Mendola from Old Englehart, or Brian Ross at Vintage Four Group, or Brett, you know, who is BL, you know. I mean, even if you have the best, even I'm sure David McCarthy from Kagan's and stuff would say the same thing, you know, because every day, man, there's new information. You can research, you can learn, you see new stuff. And you know what? When you figure out all the bars that are in 999, then you have all the Sterling stuff. If you want to start learning that, like Franklin and Danbury and
Yeah, the
Lincoln.
Franklin
And
men.
then
Yeah.
when and
Right.
then when you get tired of that, you can do the commemorative half set from the U.S. Mint. What's that, about 145 pieces, 144 pieces? And then you can
Wow.
go into the Liberty Coin Act and start reading on all that for the last 40 years. I mean, silver art collectibles, whether it's bars, new, old, vintage, new, it's fantastic. And, you know, there's something for everybody from the low end to the high end, fractionals, big old blocks, investment silver, low end tier one collectibles. There's something for everybody.
You
Themes,
know,
that's what the thing
Steve,
is.
that's really interesting. I'm going to tell you right now, because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a coin shop for a long time. Even though they have records, like take, for example, Franklin Mint. You know how many sets of Franklin Mint stuff we melted back in the day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of that
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
just when dealers bought it, they just melted it. So who knows what's really still available, what's not available, you know, even on some of these sets of the Franklin Mints. Like if you have a set that's like probably they made 100 of them, there's got to be less than 100 out there now because
Oh
of
yeah.
just people melting them
Oh yeah.
down.
Oh yeah. Way. Tons and tons of it. I mean, just tons and tons of it's melted, unfortunately. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, you don't know till you don't know. I mean, my wife used to say, "Hey, why are you telling all these dealers what stuff's worth?" I mean, you're telling them back when something you get a 3 ounce Engelhard for like 45, $50. You're telling them, "Hey, you'll pay them 150, $200 for them." I said, because they don't know that they can make any money. They think that it's a waste of their time, and they're not going to spend any time looking for it or carrying it around and bringing it to me. I want the stuff, so I'm gonna tell them what I want to pay more, and they started finding stuff. And see, anytime you can help people make more money, if they're in business, if they can make an extra 5 or 10 or 50 or $100,000 a year, that's a win-win-win for everybody. Because
That's right.
if somebody's making more money, they're going to pass that
Absolutely.
along and have better prices for their customers, and more stuff gets found, and people learn more.
Absolutely. And guess who they're going to come to? They're going to come to you.
Yeah. Now I have little
So
old men shuffling up to me, going, "Steve, what's this?" But that's
I don't
cool,
blame them.
man.
That's
That's
I do
cool.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it's freaking cool. I mean, I have it all the time, and when people want to learn, it doesn't matter if they're a 5-year-old or if they're a 95-year-old.
Right.
If somebody wants to learn it and they're excited, man, their eyes light up, man. You know how it is.
No, definitely. I mean, and I feel it's one of the last frontiers of cool, great, really like, it's hard to say these words now because like, who knows what people want to use anymore, but it's a field of cool collectibles that's still relatively affordable. I feel the art bar world.
Oh yeah,
Whereas
yeah. I mean,
like,
unless you get into the upper pieces, I mean, there's always going to be your upper museum type pieces and anything, whether it's
absolutely, yeah,
comic books
absolutely.
or anything. But
But think about it. If you
one thing
wanna
that,
collect like proof barber quarters or something like that, even though I think they're
hmm
undervalued for what they are, they're still, you're
yeah.
talking thousands of dollars just to get into the market.
Oh yeah,
Whereas,
oh yeah.
you
Even the
know,
commemorative halves, if you start going after some of the special ones, you're looking at $4,000 and $5,000 minimum a piece.
right,
I think for
right,
some of the
right,
nicer ones,
right. But you could get a
So,
cool vintage bar for like a couple $100.
oh yeah, I mean, oh yeah, and you can find them sometime less than you could because more and more people becoming knowledgeable, and there's hobby expansion, so it's harder to find things. So
Yeah. Well, they keep
used to
them,
where
right?
a vintage 100 used to be, well, that's pretty rare. Now vintage 100's really rare, and vintage 500, and vintage 1,000, stuff seems pretty rare too, because
Interesting.
there's more and more people, more and more people. But there's so much crossover. One hobby that I see that really, really has a lot of the same. You have great artwork. It hasn't really had guidebooks and that much stuff going around like that for that many years. Like maybe 40, 50 years is note collecting. Some of the nice note collecting, like paper money collectors. That's another hobby that's somewhat last 50, 60 years newer to a point like kind of like silver art bars and rounds and other pieces of that genre.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think with paper money, the newer issues and stuff like that, errors and
hmm
misprints have recently become more popular. Runs, different
Yeah, yeah.
sequences, stuff like that. But I mean, the classic old banknotes that were rare have always sort of been sold after, and then the gold notes have always been big, as far back as I can remember, at least.
Well, and I mean, when you think back, the old assay pieces, government and non-government assay pieces, like the Harvey Harris pieces, the United States Assay Office pieces, I mean,
Mm.
those kind of fit in the same categories as the old legitimate notes and stuff like that,
Right, right, right.
So I kind of compare those together. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between a lot of it. I mean, just between crossovers between like art bar collecting and even era collecting. I mean, Brian Raines, like Ken Potter and Brian Raines are two of the best era coin people ever. Ken Potter was a bar guy, man. I mean, that's what he was, and a coin guy, bar guy. Ken Potter was involved with a lot of bars being minted over the years. And then Brian Raines, not so much, but I met Brian because see that cud?
Oh, it's hard to see from there, but there's
Yeah,
a
it's
cut
a
on
little
it.
bit hard, but yeah, it's a cud. It's a see all that where it's just completely smeared.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
That is a pretty famous bar, and actually Brian found that. See how it's cutted?
Wow. What?
Because see this bar right here, it has the field on it. It says field, and they only had 98. I think 98 of those minted, and then they redid them. It has just two stacks of poker chips there. Nobody knew why, but Brian found this bar and that pieced it together. The die broke, so they had to make a new die. So they just made it a little different and started the mintage over. So even though a bar guy didn't find this, an error coin guy found this, but there's so
Wow.
much crossover, it
That's
fits into the
crazy.
hobby and helped us fill in a blank of the history.
That's you know what? That's an air bar.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
That's
that's a major
crazy,
find,
man.
and that's
Wow.
attributed to
Wow.
Brian Raines. Brian
Wow.
Raines discovered that. That's fantastic piece and fantastic fellow too. You've
That's
probably
freaking
seen him. If
crazy.
not, you definitely need to. I'll introduce you to him when we get to a show.
Yeah,
He's a great
absolutely.
guy.
I'd love to meet
Oh
him.
yeah. Oh yeah, but there's just so much crossover, man. It's just a great thing, and we have crossover even with magicians, man. I mean, because some of the bars are in the magicians tokens book, so we have like big crossover with all kinds of other different, genres of collecting.
Interesting. Interesting. So, I
Yeah.
mean, how do you guys sort of, is Instagram a big tool for the art bar world? Like people are mostly congregating there on social media, or I know you have a Facebook group, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a couple Facebook groups actually. Mine, Silver Bars and Art Collectibles. I just didn't see people that were sharing information, and things were more about investment silver and some of the newer stuff also.
Right.
I wanted to start a little group to share some information. I expected about 60 or 80 people, and there's about 7,500.
Wow.
And but it's a private group, like people outside of the group, like your neighbors or the hooligan down the street. They can't see what you collect, so
Right. Right.
that does give people a layer of security. Plus, people could just make up a fake name, call themselves like uh, art bar guy or something. I don't
Right.
know, whatever somebody want to call. But book is pretty good information. Also, Brian Ross started a vintage pour group, vintage poured bars. That's a very significant group.
Yeah.
I think what Brian did with that really has changed a lot of the poured pieces, and and he's done a fantastic job vetting the group and just doing everything there, keeping it small enough to where you can keep an eye on everybody. But there's some fantastic bars and information goes through there. Then Instagram. Instagram's really been great, especially during COVID, because people, a lot of people are sad and depressed, and there was a lot of good community things going on, whether it's fundraisers, get-togethers, and stuff. And a lot of that was people like Tommy Haynes,
Yeah.
Stacking.NYC, Mooney Pops, Mooney Tucker, and even the lawn man, Kevin, great guy in
Mm.
person. He's more of the Howard Stern of collecting, but he's a good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. And
Nice.
but people have their characters, and then they have their other people here and there, and it's just a great community with different key people that help coordinate things, like Charlie Mack out of Brooklyn that does toys for tots. We just have different people that do so much for other people, man. It's just a great community. So
That's
that is
awesome.
a really important thing with Instagram. And then you have eBay and then the auction houses
Mhm.
and just on and on and on. It goes on forever.
Right. Right. That's the thing.
Mm.
Like, I feel like with auction houses, bars have made it to the auction block, but they're the older ones. Like the ones you see are they're 19th century bars that were from territories, random places, larger scale gold stuff. That's sort of the stuff you see, or shipwreck would be on the other side of it. So like Atosha bars, silver bars that pulled out, but nothing really has happened in the art bar world yet. That is like mostly happening on eBay and random sites, right?
Well, to a point, I mean, Rob Sultan, Mineral Exchange, he's been doing some stuff, which I mean, anybody starting an auction house or starting auctions, you're probably going to realize lower prices when you're starting because there's just less eyes. But that's a part of the
Right.
business plan. I would imagine everybody has to go through those learning curves, even Hollenberg and some of them auction houses, Kagan, Stacks back in the day. Everything's not going to be like it is on year 20 on day one, obviously. So
Absolutely right.
the price is often a little bit lower. But Rob has some nice stuff going on there. He's realizing some nice prices. There are prices that people even do sales like on Facebook and Instagram as well. But in the actual auction houses, the actual art bars in the auction houses, they often slide through a little bit, even some of the upper end. I mean, I've scored a couple upper end Coke bars, $600, $700, $800 an ounce Coke bars for like 80, $90 because
Wow.
people just thought it was just a regular one like Atlanta or something, which had a higher mintage.
Right.
So sometimes stuff slides through like that, which is fortunate that it actually makes it to the auction block instead of being melted like we were discussing earlier, like you brought up. So,
Well,
at least
that's,
we're fortunate there.
yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to do, like with auctions and our platform at VCD. Like I really feel the art bar world is a good focus to have. That's, I'm trying to do more of that stuff. So if I go
Mhm.
moving forward, the whole key is to really have very good descriptions in provenance. So
Yeah.
if you could actually publish a lot of that stuff within the descriptions, then it allows people to know exactly what they're bidding on and what they're collecting. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Which one
See,
is
like,
that?
for example, see, that's just a United States Silver Corp giraffe. If you just look at it quick, it looks like a giraffe. But if you look close, it has the word canceled across it. And that's actually carved into the die afterwards and then struck into the bars to show that the die was canceled and couldn't break the mintage of the original one, right? The original regular. They only made 10 of these. They did the cancel variety.
Wow.
So when you have a mintage 10, okay, I mean, I get it. It's not mintage 5, 1913 V nickel. But should this be a $400 bar or should this be a $4,000 bar in reality? A mintage 10 by a known historical met. I mean, that's my point. It's worth about 400 now. But with hobby expansion, you skew supply and demand. So, I mean, as if the hobby expands even more and goes 10 times more like it did the last decade, so to speak, what happens? It probably won't go from 400 to 4,000, but it easily could go to 12, 1,500. And then from there, you never know. I mean, as collectors enjoy a hobby and continue to progress through the hobby and learn, you know, it depends on who's after something at any given time, right? For even with the best coins in the world. I was at the auction where a 1913 V-nickel went for 1.2, but hey, another one goes for 3 point something. What 8, 9 years later? So
yeah, well, that's you know, many years of people trying to build that set and realizing that that's the rare one. You know,
yeah.
I mean, as
Same
people,
with stuff like this.
Yep, yeah. As people start to collect these and knowing which ones are the super difficult ones to get, that's one part of it. And then two, just availability. Not if those 10 bars, let's say, don't change hands very often at all, if not in 10 in a 10-year period, 10 to 20-year period, now you're talking, you know, a really valuable bar.
Yeah, this actually came out of the John Ellis collection. I actually was fortunate enough that, well, not fortunate that he passed. I sure wish he was alive. I never met the man, but he left word for his wife to get in touch with me. And, well, because he wanted me to possibly get his collection, which I did, and this was part of that. So this probably was in his collection since the 70s. I mean, he was an older man, just passed away a couple of years ago. So he might have got this original, you know, way back in the day, because he was in his late 80s. So,
had to have been. And
it's pristine too. I mean, it looks fantastic. But so yeah, some of that stuff and the history there. I mean, that matters. That's just like that John Ellis. Like along with when I bought all of the stuff and from them, they had some old scales, like the balance scales, and I thought it was neat. And they were along with it. And I just forward. I don't have like Dave Junker met his son Mason Jones. He's an poor artist. So when we were down there, I told him who they were from and that they belonged to John Ellis, late John Ellis, and this and that. And I passed them forward to him because he understands that he's the next generation, you know, and he's an artist too. So I think stuff like that matters. I think stuff like that matters a lot to people. Matters a lot to me when people do that and took their time with me.
Absolutely. You know, that's part of the community aspect of it. And then, you know, building up the history and stuff like this. I mean, it seems I've seen that happen with the rare vintage bars, like looking at refiners that were around for a short period of time. They made limited edition. And then the Engelhardt, of course, a lot of the growth in the Engelhardt market, I believe, was attributed to the site, all Engelhardt, because you got a group of guys that got together. They did all the research. They found out what this stuff is actually, what it is and what it's probably worth based on scarcity. And then people started collecting around it. And now you see a maturing market.
And honestly, Chris is all Engelhardt, Chris and them and that. But Rick was the guy that had a whole bunch of Engelhardts. Him and Chris were talking and going through some stuff, and Rick said, well, heck, I have a bunch of that. He started just laying them out on the concrete by serial numbers in his, like, I guess on the pavement in his garage to start with, and started noticing mold change and saying, okay, here's sequential serial numbers, and the mold changed here, and it's a different shape, or the stampings are different. And he had enough of them. He didn't collect them as that. I mean, he collected them just getting to buy them as silver, as an investment. And then years later, he started looking through them and noticing things. And as they cataloged those, they started noticing, these are less and less in certain varieties and more collectible. And then cataloging that, but just a lot of work and effort went into that.
Big time.
Them guys deserve so much credit, and people give them flack about, oh, well, you changed something. They're piecing together and recreating history that was lost. I mean, my, oh my, I mean, if somebody says we think it's this and we think it's that, and I get it. When somebody says the mintage is, and they just have a mintage, you kind of want it to be factual, and I told him years ago, man, you could write, it is thought
you don't
to
know.
be,
Yeah,
or
you can't be 100%.
But yeah, when you're recreating history from paperwork and molds and stuff, I mean, it's the best you can do, and they've put in so much work. I mean, and anybody that complains about that, it's just they don't have their head screwed on straight, in my opinion.
Well, it takes time to flush out, like. We're no stranger to that in the coin world. I mean, you've seen hordes of coins turn up, over the years. It happens. These are part of the things. Oh, sorry, we didn't know we had these bags of Morgan dollars. But as time goes on, there's less and less of it. Like now in 2022, you're not going to find a horde of barbers.
Not too often. I mean, if it is, it's gonna make the national news. And you know what? That horde would actually, instead of devaluing it, it would make it go up, because it would make the hype in the news so much. I believe it would actually act opposite as big as the hobby is.
Potentially, yeah, potentially.
I mean, unless it's a crazy horde. I mean, if it was just 300, 400, 500 or something, that would be absorbed so quick.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like the U.S. Mint had a lot of official records, so it was a lot easier to trace. When you're talking on, small refiner, now let's say Inglehart's closed down. Like, there's no one to really contact at the company to say, okay, how many of these were made and what was the corporate policy to make, you know what I mean? Was this an experimental bar that they tried and deemed it not suitable for the market for whatever reason? There's a lot of things that happen with inside the company that we're not privy to.
Oh yeah, tons of it. And occasionally that's where they get information from: interviews, sit downs with one-on-ones with Engelhart employees, like an old guy an old employee that used to work there or something, or they find paperwork or a newspaper article or this or that. That's sometimes happen. Old Coinage or Coin World magazine, they find an article or this, that, and there. Like, and it happens occasionally. There was something about the Johnson Matthey in one of them I seen. They had fella there, and they were talking about the Freedom of Rights, the round series where it had the 10 Freedom of Rights rounds and stuff like that they minted back in the day. So, I mean, there's always stuff back when you look. It's just so hard to find it, but it's getting easier, especially you guys that are a little bit younger and a little bit more advanced with technology, where you can do like really good internet searches, and they have some of these auction search things like WorthPoint and stuff like that. But people need to use that. Let me take a moment, if I can, Troy.
Yeah.
When you use WorthPoint, if it's an auction and you check it out, it's going to tell what the price is. It's probably, let's say it comes out $2,142 and whatever. That's probably an auction. Okay. And most of that stuff's right. But again, you have to look,
but that's the thing. Like, is it reliable? Like, for a lot of bars.
It could be shield bid, or it could be whatever. But regardless, one point real quick, Charles. A lot of dealers, a lot of people, when they're using WorthPoint, they'll look at a thing and they'll say on eBay where it said buy now, and it was like 6,500, and they say that was the sale price, and they say, well, there wasn't no offer. But on eBay, through the system, you can send offers to the sellers or to the buyers. So when an offer is accepted, there isn't any line anymore that way.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff is not correct. So if it's an actual bin, somebody could have made an offer and it shows the top ask price, not the accepted price. So always beware of that. There's a lot of even dealers, seasoned dealers, that goof up on that. If somebody's not aware of that, or they're going to say that's not true, I'll be more than happy to pull up my wife's eBay and we'll show and do a test live one night again and show people. But it's important to use your tools right. It's always important to use your tools right. So everybody make sure that you remember that and use use it properly, just like you would your guidebooks or anything else. Okay, you have to use your tools right.
Absolutely. The one of the issues though I find with WorthPoint is like, because I'm looking at like vintage silver bars and stuff like that, older ones poured, and some of the auctions that are the most recent ones are 6-7 years old.
Yeah, and that's a situation where you have to basically know what you're doing, and you had to have been tracking these things for some
For a
years.
long time. Yeah.
I mean, if you've been keeping spreadsheets of tracking prices on some of these things, you can see a curve possibly, or sometimes a bubble and then a curve, or multiple curves, because stuff goes through hot streaks and stuff.
Right.
And but if you're tracking stuff, you can get a decent feeling. Plus, it's apples to apples. A lot of times, people don't see that, but it really is. If I'm looking at a piece, and let's say I'm comparing my John Wayne Great House bar to, let's say, Gene Autry. Not as many people remember who Gene Autry was nowadays as they do John Wayne. I mean, it's unfortunate, but history gets lost. People know who Ryan Seacrest is.
Right.
Some people remember who Dick Clark was. Not that many people, even me. I don't remember Guy Lombardo. That's more my dad's range.
Generation, yeah. Right.
So sometimes we just outgrow the history in certain things, and that makes the value of certain things start dipping to a point, unfortunately. But that's true with even government pieces or anything. Some themes just don't stand the test of time. I mean, if you find a piece that has James or Monroe or Polk on it or something, I mean, they're just not going to do as well as a Nixon piece, a Reagan piece, a Kennedy piece, a Lincoln piece. Right. It's just not going to do as well, generally, apples to apples.
Yeah. No, I mean, that does. All those things do have an effect on value. Whether it, I mean, there's a lot of things that people equate differently with value. I mean, it's one thing to look at vintages and stuff like that, and who the actual refiner was. Did they have a name for themselves? Is there some sort of history around it? But not only that, also to the popularity of something. If you get a craze based on some type of product or something like that, then people are going to be more inclined to look for that bar, which has an effect to make it more valuable. More demand.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh,
but I mean, here's the thing. Like, what I wanted to ask you is like, figure on which one is that?
That is an earlier Muhammad Ali bar. So you can see that the design.
You know what? I've seen that one. Didn't you show me that once before, right?
I think I did. I have a couple of them now.
That's the rare one, though, right?
Example, oh yeah, I think vintage 102. I think, but see, it's not the most beautiful bar. I mean, they didn't do a great strike. The actual die work was somewhat right. But it's Muhammad Ali, and it's extremely rare, and it was the mint, the late Dwayne Spellman. So I mean, something like that. This actually came through eBay, man. Somebody posted, a guy that knew pretty much what it was, but just like what you were saying, he was slightly outdated on his pricing. So see, 8, 9, 10 years ago, this was about a $200 bar. It's probably more of a $400 or $500 now. Guy put it up for like $199.99 on eBay, and I had to snag it because I think I paid $400 for one of mine. So it helped me cost average it down a little bit. But again, the die work's not that beautiful. But one thing that I am going to focus more this year with the hobby and everybody is some of the beautiful die work that was done on bars. Just because the mintage was a little bit higher, we're missing the bulk and the beauty of the hobby sometimes because we get so excited about the rare bars. Right. We don't look at the beauty of all of the beautiful die work.
Right. The intricacies and stuff like that.
Yeah, some of it was done by people at tooling and machine shops, and those guys, some of them were artists, man. That was their job. Like the big coin guy, I mean, we were just at A&A. They have an award named after Harry Foreman, the late Harry Foreman. He was a big-time coin dealer. And Harry Foreman, I mean, he was Madison Mint. A lot of people don't know that. But, I mean, he had tooling shops, machine shops, people like that doing a lot of his dies and stuff back in the day. I mean, beautiful work sometimes. I mean, magnificent. I mean, some of the best stuff you ever seen. But not even the name of the guy who did the work to it. It was just commission work. But whoever did it, it was just so talented on some of that stuff. It was amazing. I mean, right up there with like chief engravers of the U.S. Mint and stuff. I mean, stuff that blow that away. I mean,
what do you think of some of the new coins that are coming out with the intricacies in them? Like They're doing all kinds of experimental stuff. I've seen coins that with holograms, all kinds of things.
CIT Mint, I think that's the one.
Yeah, CIT. They're the ones in Liechtenstein, right?
I'm not quite sure. I think Chan Bullock used to be with him. I think
Right.
he's a Gold Bureau now.
I know those guys. Very good guys. Very nice people.
But you have the technology with some of the new companies like that they have the best stuff, them and Geiger and, West Point, US Mint and all them people, right? But then you have stuff like Osborne Mint, where we met them guys up at A&A. I know who they are. They're one of, if not, the oldest private U.S. mint, okay? I think there's two of them that came around about the same time, but apples, oranges, they're both fantastic. But the Osborne guys, man, like their strikes, they just came out the absent round. I mean, that's first of a series. I mean, beautiful die work. The transitions between the fonts and the field and just everything's so great. And I mean, I don't know what they're using, but you have the old school, you have the new school, and either way, man, it's just the talent of these people is so fantastic. It just blows my mind every day. But hey, without all the artists and the creators and the men, what are we going to collect, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to find stuff. You have to have records for this stuff. Like, look, remember, the other day we'll let the public. We were talking about Cincinnati bars, and where there's no real good paperwork you could find. I mean, the research is not. It's in bits and pieces here.
The most Cincinnati info, I guess all Engelhard under their other refiners, they have some stuff now. silveringotinfo.com.
Silver Ingot Info.
Yeah, silveringotinfo.com. A couple guys I know, kind of private guys, they were working on stuff. One of the guys was working on some Cincinnati documentation and trying to trace stuff. But even 4 or 5 years ago, the price was almost double what they are now because they were so seldom seen. But as with anything, once a couple huge, like $1,000 ounce silver bars go, then it kind of fishes some out because people go, well, I have one, but I didn't really want to sell it, but for that money I would. Or, wow, I didn't know that. I paid, $38 for that back in the day. I could use $1,000,
But the market was efficient. It found the price, and people were willing to sell.
Yeah, so that happens, but that's true of everything. That whether it's a Pokemon card, whether it's a baseball card, a lot of times when something comes out and realizes a high price, it pulls another one or two out.
Yeah, it's true. You need. Yeah. It's that chicken and the egg. Sometimes that one has to happen, and then people follow suit, and then you get other people. But the main thing, the cool thing is like when things like that happen in bars or Pokemon, whatever it is, go for high prices. I think it brings in more people into the hobby. It attracts people. It's a story, And
it's exciting. And I actually did a presentation, 2009, I think, down in Orlando. Jim Best, I was his VP. I wasn't his VP then, but I was his VP back then. Jim Best. Silver tips. He'd been a retired Army guy. He was on the DMZ over in Korea, retired, opened a coin shop, him and his wife in like 1980 and been doing it ever since, man. Great folks. But he said, hey, I'll give me 20 minutes. Don't go 21, don't go 19. I know how you are. You'll be up here 2 hours. So I gave him exactly pretty much 20. But what I did was how the new bars, like the stuff that people had minted, like CMG Mint, DT Mint, all these people, when it kind of started back in 2009, 2008, 2012, CMG was 2012, how that new influx of the designers and mentors, pseudo mints, doing stuff for the last decade, how that actually got interest because people that didn't even know about the vintage pieces, they would see one of these pieces and they go, wow, that's cool. And then somebody say, hey, did you see the one with the mermaid on it that was old? Or did you see the one with the animals on it that was old? Or did you see the one with the aliens that were old or whatnot? And then that drove people back and forth to the vintage and helped people learn. So a lot of people didn't really like some of the newer bars, even though there are some fantastic ones. And now it's all kinds of cool stuff. But it drove people to the hobby. It helped people learn it, and now people are just going back and forth. People have their favorites and this and that, but just like with anything else, it opened up it opened up people's eyes and they said, wow, look at that,
So what do you think would be the oldest decade of the art bar world?
The actual true art
Yeah,
bar
like
would be
what
in
you
the,
would consider the art bar world.
yes, the 60s. Foster
The
Foster
60s,
Company,
huh?
W.H. Foster out of Walla Walla, Washington.
Foster,
They
all
did the
right.
Silver Eagle's Nest, a few things in the late 60s, World Mint, Colonial Mint, a few of them, and then the Franklin Mint and all that stuff. They were doing stuff in the 60s. Some
Right.
of their books were in the 60s and stuff. So Franklin, Danbury, Lincoln, then all that. And then Harry Foreman, man, him and a couple of them other big time coin guys, they seen it coming and they hopped on it. And then Dwayne Spillman got his guys together. He got Harlan White. He got Gary Fillers. He was out of Chattanooga. He was the guy that got up with all the Coca-Cola companies and got all the Coke bars done. And a few other guys, forgot the names of a couple of them. Ron Gilo, he's a big time coin guy out there. I think he's Continental Coin or something. But all them guys, I mean, and then just different people. I mean, think about well, we're talking about somebody drawing something out a few years ago. Bullion Reserves of Panama City. I mean, we all know who that is. That's Larry. That was well, he passed away. Larry Lee, the coin collector and coin guy that had the 1913 V nickel, the $3 million one,
Right.
that passed away a couple of years, well, a year and a half, 2 years ago, unfortunately. So condolences to his family, of course, for that. But I mean, they put up on eBay through his shop a couple of years ago, a Sweet and Low, a 1 ounce pressed art bar, Sweet and Low. And it's in the
Wow.
guidebook. I've never heard of anybody that had one, never seen one, probably other than Walt
It went
Thomas up
on
in,
eBay?
yeah, and I lost it. It went real high. It went 300, 400, 500 bucks. I forgot what it went, 350, 400.
Wow.
And but it drew out another one. So I actually, a couple of months later, I actually scored one for myself, and mine looked better because the one that it pulled out was actually a little bit better condition. So I actually
Really?
ended up winning the second one. But
Nice.
but yeah, there's so much crossover. I mean, Mr. Lee, I mean, and them. You look at them at coin guys, Harry Foreman, but I mean, the hobby wasn't silver people. The hobby wasn't building it from stackers. The hobby was built by the main coin people that seen that it was an opportunity for them to have more avenues of revenue.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they came up with a lot of that, and they did a fantastic job marketing it. They did a fantastic job doing it. And,
Well, now,
a lot of,
just
and there were
recently
flops.
we're seeing the success of it. It
And
took
there
years
were
for.
flops, though. I mean, everybody has flops. Everybody has flops. I mean, whether it was Tom Greathouse, Harry Foreman, Larry Lee, Chris Geiner, you or I, if we were to do stuff like that, we all would have our hits if we're
Absolutely,
good,
yeah.
like some of these guys, but we all have flops, So there
Absolutely.
are bars
Absolutely.
within different mints that you look at and go, wow, that mint, all their stuff's good except that one.
Right. Yeah.
But it happens. It
Yeah,
happens. Everybody has one
people
of them
find
bad
what they
ideas.
like. They find what they like and what they don't like, So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of well, you know what I want to ask your question about,
Mm-hmm.
Steve, is that what do you make of these quote unquote like fantasy pieces? Like what some are borderline fraudulent, like what John J. Ford did with the quote unquote thorn bars that are out there. I mean, I know guys that are really looking after these bars, like sought after bars that are not
Mm-hmm.
even real bar. I mean, it's
Well,
crazy to
they're
me. I
real.
don't.
They're real. They're real, legit bars with fake stories. So the first person, like when the Franklin Ford pieces, when they were originally sold back in the 50s, those guys were scam artists. They
Right.
pretended like those bars were old timey and sold them to people as collectibles instead of as new stuff. So that was a fraudulent scheme, okay? But those bars are indeed real silver, real gold, this and that. So now they are 70 years old. They have a real story and the fake story, just like the Dennis England pieces. The Dennis England, he did that back in like 2008 to 2012. Again, those pieces are crazy expensive and it's still being researched. But apparently, him and his wife, um, they didn't just run that scam. Somebody just recently sent some paperwork or screenshots or something where they have actually maybe possibly according to the thing actually got into other stuff and got into other scams afterwards. Might even be locked up now for other stuff.
Wow.
So I mean, some of these scammers they made money and got caught. Some of them made money and didn't get caught, like back in the old days. But the original people, yeah, they got messed over pretty bad, and they were being cheated. But honestly, the Dennis England pieces, heck, if them people bought them back then from him, they'd be, in 10 years they would have just went 10, 20 times their money. but people don't look at it that way. It still was wrong. It still was somebody pulling a scam and a scheme and
Right.
the whole
That's the
nine
thing.
yards. It just turned out okay for the collectors that ended up having them now. But it was fake stories, lying, deceit, and scams, just like the Father Keno ingots way, way back in what 1800 or whatever. Same situation with them. You know,
Right.
if anybody isn't familiar with them, look up the Father Keno ingots. It's a situation real similar, even 100 years, 150 years previous. So stuff like that has happened way back, way, way back.
It's
And it's
always been going
unfortunate.
on, right?
Yeah, you're always going to have stuff like that, but that's where the knowledge, that's where somebody like yourself, if you have a territorial coin or something that comes through where I would not know if it's a counterfeit or not, you'll be able to look at it, weigh it,
Yeah.
check it out, and
Well,
you'll say, nope, nope,
well,
nope,
you
nope,
mentioned
nope.
territorial, so there's old counterfeits that are 100 years old.
And
And
some of
sometimes
them
they,
probably have a lot of
you know,
value
they,
too, don't they?
well, to a certain extent, not to the same degree, but some have actually fooled the grading companies, you know, which they had to make good on. So,
Yeah, same with notes. I was just sitting in a note seminar. Robert Calderman did it up at Blue Ridge up in Dalton, Georgia, a few weeks ago, and he was going through some notes. There's actually a Confederate note that has a train on the back, and then there's a counterfeit of
oh
the
yeah,
same era,
there's a lot of
and the
there's a lot of
counterfeit looks
counterfeits and
better.
Confederates.
But one doesn't have two people in the train. The other people is there, and you see the two people in the train. But supposedly the counterfeit of that that it's sold might. I mean, it's actually worth good money. But it's not like a modern counterfeit. But still, done to deceive. They were done to deceive. So originally, bad news, bad people. But we're not dealing with those people anymore. Those people have long since passed. So now we're just
Right.
looking at as collectibles like we would even stuff that went through a lot of bad times. Like we have pieces through history that have seen wars and despair and all kinds of things through notes and coinage, and especially world,
Absolutely.
and even through ours, the Civil War. I mean, look at how many of our fellow brothers and sisters passed away in that war. I mean, tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. But so we collect around certain things like that, even shipwrecks. But we have to look at it as history and remember people's misfortune and stuff like that, as opposed to celebrating that. We can celebrate the
That's
peace
right.
without celebrating the tragedy.
That's right. Absolutely. And learn from it.
Yeah.
Right? No, definitely, man.
Yeah.
But that's, with this whole bar market, the one thing I always say, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to be vocal about it because I hope people take attention to what I'm saying. The thing that's going to take the bar community to the next level is a grading service for bars.
We came up with
it's a
something
grading
to a
service for bars. If the grading companies are like, if PCGS or NGC decided tomorrow that they're going to start grading bars, it would take our hobby to a whole new level.
They just keep saying they don't. I mean, Annex does to a point. As long as they have documentation, they can figure it out so they're not hung out to dry looking like they goofed up. I mean, they have to be legit, but Annex will, like I said, Will Rossman, but even in the back in the day, you probably didn't need as much because it was so small, close knit, people share information with their buddies when there was only, a couple hundred people collected. But now when you have tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, it's different. I worked on something. Mine actually brought in some, because see, if you take this bar right here, if you compare that bar that was struck by Zyzer manufacturer, most likely, that's the best. That ain't the best they could do, but the quality of that, if you would have to compare it to what it's supposed to be. You couldn't compare that to West Point.
Right.
It would be like comparing a old 1850 piece that was graded that might get what were they going to maybe get a 66 or 67, maybe a 68, right? Tops on an old piece. So you can never really get a 70 on something like that, just like you couldn't on this.
Yeah. Right.
So you have to take that in consideration. But that's true of coins as well. So that's the step if we're going to go that way. But I worked on something. I brought a little historical one. Also, a guy, Silver Will Prosper. He did one that is more like a CAC certification, where it works for like certifying like some of the newer poured pieces to say, yeah, they are legit. They're 999. Or they're whatever they're supposed to be. Are they checking out with the weights and what they're supposed to be? Are they legit?
Interesting.
And so his is a little bit of that. We actually talked about maybe trying to do a dual one. But
let me ask you, I heard something that NGC at one point was talking about doing it, but then they never decided to do that. Do you hear anything about that or no?
NGC and them have graded stuff like that, including 16-to-1 mine bars and stuff like that. They keep saying they don't, because I think when they look in their database, they're looking it up wrong. Maybe they did it under medallions or tokens, or I don't know what they did it under, but I've seen them. I've held them in my own hands. You can do searches and find them on the internet. A few, not a
Interesting.
bunch, and stuff. But I think it would be great if they did it, but they would have to be able to do it properly. And there's just not that many people, I mean, that could do it. I mean, honestly, I think there's maybe about
Steve,
10 people
you
that
could
could
do
do it well.
it.
Oh, I could do it to a point, but my
No,
eyesight's not
you
that
could do
great,
it.
and I'm getting old. But technology's pretty neat. I have one of these little
I would
microscopes.
definitely trust you to do it.
But these little things are great. You can buy these little microscopes to hook up to your computer or phone for like $50 now. So if you're looking at a coin or you're looking at a bar, you can actually look at it and see not just defects, but you can see the beauty, man, a little bit
Absolutely.
better. I mean, technology is really, really helping us out a lot with stuff
I'm
like
gonna
that.
say
But
it. I'm gonna
yeah,
say it on this podcast. If anyone could degrade bars, who I think would be the best at it would be you, hands down. There's no question.
yeah, well, I appreciate that, and a lot of that's just being fortunate enough to be mentored by people like Archie Kidd and Clarence Criswell helped me out, and Tom, well, I can't say his last name, but Tom and some other folks, and Ken Potter and Will Rossman and all these guys, Jim Best, I mean, just man, oh man, just so many people that pass stuff forward. And then they say to me, hey, I say, man, that's so great. And they say, just do me a favor, Steve, do the same, pass it forward, pass it forward. So that's what we try to do, man. That's what you try to do. That's what I try to do. That's what
Absolutely.
pretty much everybody that cares
Absolutely.
about any hobby they're in tries to do, right?
Well, that's what this is all about. That's why I'm doing this stuff. So,
Yeah.
hopefully someone on
So,
searching around the internet randomly finds this and discovers a whole new world of either collecting bars or coins or whatever.
and see, the thing is, some people, they don't need to collect it. Some people aren't in a position to collect at a certain point in their life. They're at a time where they need to try to do better because they have a baby, they have a wife, they have a husband, they have this, they
Right.
have that. They're trying to buy a house. Like a guy named Franklin Bethel, I know his wife, she was in grad school, I think, becoming a veterinarian down in Texas, and he was going to some shops and finding some cool stuff, but he didn't know what much of it was. He reached out through Facebook and other things. He's on Instagram now as well, great guy. And he wasn't really, I mean, little kid and this and that, his wife in grad school. So, I mean, he wanted to collect a little bit, and him and his boy did a little bit. They got a few turtle pieces and dinosaur pieces and neat little stuff. But a lot of his, I mean, he learned, so he would go to the local coin shop, and let's say he bought 4 bars and paid $20 or 4 bars, paid $20 a piece for them, but he knew what he was looking for. So then all of a sudden he could sell them, make some money, and then buy more stuff that he needed for him and his wife and his kid. And over the years, while his wife was doing that, I mean, they actually have animals and have a little farm and stuff that he basically bought all that stuff from just his knowledge and being able to pick up pieces and
Absolutely.
sell them to other collectors. I mean, that benefited him and his family, a
Right.
lot.
That's what I keep saying.
So,
I mean, these
so whether
things
it's
are
that
an
or
alternative
collection,
investment, Steve.
hmm
It's an alternative investment, and in the modern day and age, it's needed.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, people have to sometime. I mean, look at inflation, look at different things. I
Right.
mean, if I said, hey man, I can pretty much get you a 10, 20% return on something, you'd be like, man, what are you, a witch doctor or something? Nobody can do that. Yeah,
Regularly.
knowledge. If you have the knowledge a little bit, I
Yeah.
mean, remember the old thing where they say if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime or something.
That's right.
That's the
Yeah.
truth with knowledge. If you read and understand and get a little help and people help guide you through the hobby and stuff, I mean, you can actually come out well. You just can't make too many dumb mistakes, but you make less dumb mistakes when you're informed.
Right. No,
You just do.
it's
We all
true.
do. I mean, I make dumb mistakes. We all do. But with information, we make fewer.
Yeah. I agree, man. I
So,
agree. So
so it's
what's
just, and then we have people like this that are just sharing and putting on stuff, man. Like, like Liz and Ryan, they put on a big get together out in Texas, and we have people that share and do like cool stuff in the newsletters and
that's
just
awesome.
all kinds of like about face coin Carlos and them, like a bio and all kind of stuff. You get to know the people, you get to know the dealers. I mean look at that's Carlos from about face coin out there near
Uh,
Orange, out there LA, man. So I mean there's just so many good people,
well, you got
and
your
we have
convention coming
essay
up, right?
contests.
In Tennessee.
Oh, yep, November 11th through 13. Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's actually East Ridge, Tennessee, at the Camp Jordan Arena in conjunction at the Tennessee State Numismatic Show.
That's going to be cool, man. You guys,
great people, great show. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Hopefully, you'll be able to make it.
you'll have a big turnout, I heard.
Yeah,
a lot of the old time guys are going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, Doug Jennings, former president, and pretty much everything Friday is going to be there. I'm pretty sure Will Rossman, Ed's going to be there. Ed Lance, the founder. Walt Thomas, he's I think going to be 93 then. He's from up in Caledonia, Wisconsin. He's going to try to make it down. He's only missing, literally, Walt, these two big books right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of bars in here because, you know, there's a whole bunch, right? I think he's missing like 20 bars from having them all done.
Oh, my God.
I'm serious, man. It's amazing. But, you know, somebody that loves the hobby that much, that's done it that long, that just speaks volumes to the hobby, man. Think about it.
Yeah, that's insane, man. That's so cool. So what's next for you?
Well, next for me is...
what are you working on?
Well, I'm thinking about an advanced valuation book and a presentation on valuation. I'm also thinking, remember them old, I don't want to insult anybody, but remember them dummies, like dummies book for the internet, dummies book for this, dummies book for that,
the dummies series, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I don't want to get sued or anything about
them,
and I don't think they would because we're a nonprofit for the club, but I'm going to do a presentation similar to that.
Got it.
But basically says, hey, if you don't know art bars, but you walk into a coin shop or somewhere and there was like 1,000 art bars face down, and somebody said, I want double or triple spot for them, would you feel confident in going and picking out 50 of them or picking out whichever ones you thought were worth it with them face down? I want to teach people how to, if you learn about a few 7 to 10 different reverse types of some of the more famous reverses, you could learn that. So with a little dummies guide, you could just basically look at that. So I want to do a presentation on that sometime soon. I might do that at Chattanooga, actually. That might be fun to do there, you know?
That's awesome.
And just some get-togethers. I think we might shoot over to Vicksburg, Mississippi for the little coin show over there in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Nug Life Metals, Jason LeBeau, he's going to set up. He's a fantastic artist. He does great work.
Are you going to Baltimore, Steve, or no?
I've never been to Baltimore. I mean, for the show or anything.
Yeah, the Whitman show.
Probably not this time.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going
hopefully
either.
sometime coming up. Yeah. But yeah, I've always heard Whitman put on a heck of a nice show.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show usually.
Yeah. I've heard really nice things about it. So definitely want to do that. And hey, them guys at A&A, man, Chicago Coin Club, A&A,
they did a great job.
They did a great. Oh yeah, they did a great job. And you know, most of them do, man. They just got so many people that help out, and the volunteers, just such good people. I mean, you know how that is.
No, it was a successful show for us, so it was good.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself, and I got to meet a lot of people and talk to folks and hang out. Actually, I felt a little down because even if you're there and you're having a great time, it's always nice to find a little something cool for yourself, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the last day I was there, man, the guy came in and we talked for like 4 or 5 hours, just having a good time, and he ended up selling me a couple of cool things. Nice. But by the time I talked to him for about an hour, I honestly didn't really care that much, but it was kind of cool to get the stuff anyways. You know, I got a couple bars from him.
That's awesome,
but man, it's much nicer that I actually made an acquaintance and possibly a friend, because we really enjoyed the time. And since we've been back home, we've talked on the phone again and stuff. He's from up in Madison, Wisconsin, the older fella. So, I mean, hopefully we'll keep in touch, heck, until one of us ain't around anymore, man, because that's how
these things start, man. That's how.
Yeah, man. I love this stuff, man. Such great people, great art. And like I keep saying, people just don't quite get it yet, but we're just art collectors, man. It's just a different form of art, man. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's numismatic art, man. That's to me, it's a numismatic because it's in the vein of money. I mean, silver was money.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And see, that's where I kind of break down the different genres. Like even like in a presentation I did, it's on my Instagram feed, Silver Steve Ross. Somebody go back and watch it if they wanted to. But I went through the different genres. You know, you have your shipwreck, and then the shipwreck adjacent, where they take the pieces that are worn and then they mint them into new pieces and say this came from a shipwreck. So you have all those stuff. Right. Then you have the early government assay, like the San Francisco assay, et cetera, et cetera. And then you had the non-government assayers like the old Wild West stuff, like the Conrad Vigand and the Harvey Harris and Thomas Price and stuff like that.
Right.
Then you have the
So
fantasy.
would you even consider like Humbert bars as a part of that, right?
The what?
The Humbert bars?
Oh yeah. Humboldt, Humboldt, yeah. Those are assayers. Those would be crossover. That'd be shipwreck and assayer to a point because some of them were actually.
Well,
on
yeah.
the
Well, the
SS
one there
Central
was
America,
one.
correct?
Right. There are bars that were on the SS Central America.
So that could be early private assayer, or it could be shipwreck, or a combination bar.
Right.
So yeah, even that. Then you have the art bars. You have the figurines, the plates, all the stuff like Franklin them did. I don't get into the spoons and the plates and the bells, but some people do, even the Tiffany stuff and designer stuff. But then you get into the various art bars, the poured pieces, then you the 3D figurines, and then the what I consider the Liberty Coin Act stuff, which, I mean, the old commemorative halves and a few other pieces, and then the Liberty Coin Act, which is the 40th anniversary of that, when Ronald Reagan signed that in that was 1982, if I'm not mistaken. And that led to the Silver Eagles and all the other commemoratives and medallion programs. So yeah, that, and then you have like stuff like Perth Mint, like the Nui and the Tuvalu and the different countries, Ghana. Those I consider like numismatic silver art collectibles. They do have prices, but man, if some kid in Perth, Australia takes one of them expensive pieces and goes bowling with it, his parents are going to be so upset. I mean, you could spend it, but that's just like somebody taking a double eagle and going bowling here. Yeah. I mean, man, don't steal your parents' and grandparents' coin collection and go bowling, man. Say, hey, I want to learn how to bowl. You know what I mean? Oh man.
Big mistake.
Yeah, I mean, so those are numismatic art collectibles as opposed to just the other, because, you know, they do have monetary value in theory, but they're meant as collectibles. They're not meant to go pay for your bowling. Right?
That's right.
It happens.
Oh, yeah.
A buddy of mine.
Less now, maybe, because now everything's so expensive. You can't use coins to pay for much of anything anymore, right?
It does happen still. A buddy of mine, Robert Weber, he used to work the desk over at Bama Lanes in Montgomery, Alabama. Now he owns it, but he just worked, and one day he bought it. But over the years, he collects coins and stuff, and he's not a guy that would take something from somebody. But when he was working the desk, people come in and give him stuff like that. And he would, if it's a kid that their mom or dad or the grandparent, somebody, if he could hunt him down, he would get it back to him. But if he couldn't, you know, it's better in his pocket than going to the bank, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, unfortunately, so don't let your kids sell your stuff to the bowling alley for bowling. Don't do that. Unless it's Rob, I guess. No, I mean, don't do it for Rob. Rob wouldn't do it either. But he's always honest. Rob's one of the most decent people you ever meet. So he hunted down so many people, went out his way to get them back their stuff. Like their grandkids stole some of it and came in there on like a Friday night. Oh. So he just would get it back to them like on a Tuesday when he'd see them, you know. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. So it takes good people like that also to help with that, you know.
Absolutely.
But stuff like that happens. So, but yeah, the hobby's just really expansive and it's just growing. And people, as they learn more what the hobby is, what you can collect, and that there are references and there is help, resources, etc. That's going to make it more available for people, because if you're going to invest your hard-earned money, whether it's $5 or $5,000 or $5 million, wherever you're at in your life, you need to feel comfortable.
That's right.
I mean, unless
you got to know what you're doing.
Money,
you got to know.
Yeah. Like I don't even want to go to a concert and waste a couple $100 if I don't want to go to the concert. I mean, if it's something I want to do, I don't mind spending the money even for entertainment. Right. But like I tell people, like if you go play golf, that does have value. That has exercise value, right? Exercise value, entertainment value. You get to see nature. You get to get some fresh air. So there is value.
Quality of life, you know.
But at the end of the day, that money's gone. So if you have a collectible hobby where you can also enjoy, and you also need to get out and exercise as well. Don't sit at home like Ward Cleaver and smoke your pipe and look at it in your basement with your magnifying glass. Get out and visit people and exercise.
It's critical.
Watch out for your health, right? Watch out for your health.
Yeah, but you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
But it's important, and it can be done nowadays comfortably without having to worry about not knowing and making big goof ups. You know, you can really look at the resources. You know.
Well, you guys are a major force behind that. You guys are making that happen, man. I really believe, like, a lot of people are gravitating towards the stuff you're doing and relying on it. And I mean, I think it's great for the hobby, man. You're a big contributor to the hobby.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate and like I said, man, and there's no let's just say there's no real Mount Rushmore because it's way more than four people, but just modern. Let me buzz these some names. Tony Crouch, founder of silverartcollector.com, man, so instrumental. And then you have people like Chris Geiner and Tommy Grenadas, DT Mint and CMG Mint that started kind of doing some stuff again back, in 2008, 2006, 2012. I mean, they got a lot of stuff rolling again. You have people like Beck's Coin Engraving. Their dad was Golden State Mint back in the day. They're still in it doing the stuff, doing fantastic work. You have Osborne, you have Intaglio, you have MK Bars, you have all these mints like that. Then you have people like Brian Ross, like I mentioned, our Vintage Poor Group. You have Chris Mandela, Rick Cordes, Ron Engelhard. You have some anonymous people. Some people just want to be anonymous. But there's about 20 or 25 people that just have put so much work in, including my wife, Diane, who's the editor of the newsletter and just done a lot. Mike Gilbert, he's a big commemorative half collector, and now he's into bars. And he's the secretary/treasurer for Isaac now. I mean, he's put in so much effort, and just so many people, Tommy Haynes in the overall hobby with the mostly newer stuff for him, but he enjoys all of it. And just so many people. I mean, the Mount Rushmore of just the modern people that have really done stuff, it's pushing 20 people that really, really are instrumental. And it's just a great team group effort is what it is. That's what it is. I'm just big, large, and I can't shut up, so I stand out.
No. That's great, man.
I do appreciate it. But there's such great people. And the artists, man, my God, man, look at the artists.
There's cool artists coming into it too. These guys are doing
like
incredible.
AJ.
Oh
AB
my
Customs.
God, AJ, we're gonna have on the podcast. I'd never seen anything like that. Honestly, like he built that T-Rex. It's insane. I know.
I know him and Brian Bartnick probably, and that Northview Products. My God, he's insane too. And Will's Attic. Those are four of the top, man. They're really good, man.
Crazy.
I mean, they should be in art galleries. They shouldn't even hang out with us. They should be in art galleries. But I'm glad they like us.
It is art. That's the thing. Like, it's not numismatic. Like, it's not our world. What he's doing is he makes a basic mold of the outline, but it's nothing. It looks like lines when you see it. And then he goes in by hand and does all the silver work by hand, all the detail. Every bit. Just, it's amazing. Every scale and every little tick and every little thing, just like the hobo carvers and people that go in and detail. My God, man, it's amazing what these people do, man. It's amazing, man. Yeah, AJ's like a legit artist. He's not in our world. He's something else. I don't know.
That's crazy, man. Some of these guys, man, like him and Brian Bartnick, he's barely living silver casting is Brian. He's out of Temecula, California. Them two are amazing. That Northview product, I don't quite know them that much yet. And Will's Attic, his name's William Goulda, I think. He's from up in upstate New York, I think, or in New York.
I have to see.
He does a lot he does lost wax and a lot of really neat stuff as well. And then there's a couple European guys that are fantastic, but there's 5 or 6 that are just way out there beyond most people,
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing seeing some of these guys come in and be able to do something they love. You've a lot of you guys that are going to see this probably seen Abe Lincoln and Benjamin Franklin, the two guys that go to the coin shows.
Yeah, the coin shows.
They do a fantastic job. But Abe told me about 7 or 8 years ago, looked at me and he said, Steve, back when I was president, he said, I should have signed an executive order or something to making a living and having this much fun at the same time illegal. He said it should be illegal to have this much fun and be able to make a living doing it. And that's about the truth of it, man.
Yeah, it is that way sometimes, right?
But Abe did tell me that, and coming straight from Abe Lincoln, I take that pretty much
to heart, right?
But yeah, some of these guys, they do a great job getting the word out to all the different collectors. Like Patrick, he's from Pennsylvania, numismatic, but he does the Ben Franklin and stuff. And them guys, man, they're rock stars, man. They get the word out, man, from the kids to the adults, man. It's
all part of the promotion process,
And the history, I mean, they learn the history. I mean, they're in first person. They truly understand the history and they collect around that and stuff like that. Like Ben collects around that. He was full first person. Like when we had us and Miles and everybody got together and had a little lunch and hung out for a bit one afternoon up there. And Ben was there. Remember, he went full first person for like an hour, remember? When I was designing the Continental coin.
I
I
came in
love
towards
that
the
stuff.
end of like the whole powwow
Yeah.
you guys had over there, but no,
Yeah,
they
it was
seem like cool
funny.
guys. He was hanging out there having a drink. It was great.
Yeah, he said Ben would not pass up a Pilsner, a nice tall Pilsner. Ben would not have passed that
Probably
up, so
wouldn't have,
we're good
right?
with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure. Hey, if,
He
I'm sure
probably
he would have had a
knows that
Pilsner.
too. They do all the history on these guys. It's crazy
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
they're like
yeah. But see
research.
stuff like that, and see that's the part about it, man. We look at me, and then you're on here doing the podcast stuff, but there's so many people that
Oh,
contribute to the
tons, yeah,
hobby.
tons,
You
man,
know what I
tons.
mean? It's just a beautiful thing, man.
I'm like nothing. I'm a speck
Well,
in the
and we
grander
all are
scheme
because
of things.
we're just all right in the puzzle, man. We're just
Yeah,
all connected in the puzzle together in a wonderful community, a wonderful hobby, a wonderful
absolutely,
business,
absolutely.
and we're getting to hang out and have the best fun and the
Yeah,
best
I have a
people and
great
the
time
best
with you
lives,
guys always. I do.
and making some money sometimes on stuff we're having a great time with, just like
Absolutely,
Abe Lincoln said. So I mean,
absolutely.
that's I guess that ain't that what they say the American dream is.
Yeah, I, I always tell people I'm still a kid playing with his coins, and so
Yeah, and I hope we always end up that way, man. I hope we're always that way until we're so old we can't pick them up anymore, man. I hope we are.
we will be. We will.
But yeah, man, when it comes right down to it, though, I want to show you something real quick.
Yeah,
It's just really, really neat. Because you mentioned when we first came on, and I want to point this out real quick because we got to give a shout out to Colby Brewer. You mentioned some people called me the bar father.
yeah. The BarFather.
Yeah, that bar right there. That let me see. The
Oh
bar father bar.
no, no! You got they made you a bar.
Actually,
That's you.
actually, I didn't know about it. Yeah, but actually, Colby Brewer, he's an actual postman. He owns Postal Express Mint. Okay,
Okay,
which their designer, he's an actual artist. He draws his own stuff. He don't have
got it.
artists draw it for him, and then it goes to Mint. He doesn't have his own presses. I think Silvertown struck this actual
Silvertone.
bar.
Okay,
Yeah, but he
the
actually
bar.
designed that bar, and it has like tributes to St. Louis Mint and a few other guys, J.J.
That's great.
Johnson, Squires Mint. But that's me, and it has a little essay, Steve Austin, a
That's
little
so
thing.
cool, man.
But
It's
I didn't know about it until it basically came out. But my wife knew about it because he got in touch with my wife and said, "Do you think Steve would mind?" And of course, I don't because it's all in fun. But yeah, that's
you're
where
the
kind of that
dude.
came
You're the
from, and
man.
then it kind
I'm telling you,
of.
you are the BarFather.
But I tell everybody,
Everyone goes
remember,
to
like,
you, they're like, oh,
yeah.
whatever they have a question about, oh, gotta ask. It's you gotta ask
Yeah,
Steve,
I know, and that's humbling, man. But and sometimes it's a little overwhelming. But I try really hard to answer the question, help people out, the best I can, because that's what we try to do, right?
Yeah.
But but that kind of you remember in Rocky when his cousin or his brother-in-law Paulie was trying to get him to. He said, "Hey man, I can make some money using when he got the robe and stuff." Well, he said, "Hey, if you can make some money using my name, you go ahead and do it, right?"
That's
And that's
good.
what Rocky told his brother-in-law. So like a couple people like asked me about stuff like Mike Caber, and he did a little bar. I said, "Man, if you want to do it, just do it," and a couple people. But it's fun, man. And we did some little cards, which I kind of felt a little bit bad about afterwards. But I hooked up with Dave from Benchmark Strategic Metal, and they did some of them little cards with the little gold
Oh,
thing in it.
really? Oh, wow.
And we did 1,000 of them because it'd be cheap. Everybody could have fun. But I gave away some swag, gave away some stickers and this and that. So I made like, I don't know, 20, 30 cents a piece on them after I mailed everything
Nice.
out. But I sold 1,000 of them like in a few minutes. And a buddy
That's
of mine
great.
texted me
That's
afterwards
great.
and said, you just sold 1,000 business cards. I said, oh man, I did, didn't I? But I mean,
You gotta
it
love
was
that,
fun.
though.
Everybody enjoyed, yeah. But I didn't mean to sell 1,000 business cards, guys. So I promise you, I didn't think about that. But everybody got their money's worth. They got
It's a
stickers and
collectible, man.
swag
It's
and
people,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
You are the
But it
BarFather.
was,
You're
but
immortalized now in this.
it
So,
was fun. But we had a good time. This is how excited people are. Like Dave from Benchmark Strategic Mill up in up in Rochester, I think it is, New York is where they're located. And he's an older fella. He gets excited too, just like me. We're like all excited. He calls me up like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Steve, I just was dreaming. He said, "Hey, Steve, I just was dreaming. Guess what I thought about? I'm so excited." Starts talking about a bar, man. I mean, this is how exciting the hobby is. When you can have people getting up, dreaming about, and calling each other at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, talking about a bar they're going to make or something.
It's crazy.
I mean, man, oh man, what's better than that, man? Right?
That's cool, man. I'm glad you guys are having fun doing your thing.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a pleasure, man. I'm so happy I got to have you on the podcast. Like, I've been waiting to do this for a long time because when I thought of bars, I mean, you're the first guy that pops in my head. You're the guy I wanted to get on this podcast and to do anything in a series of bars. Like when we're talking about art bars, you're the man. So thank you again for doing the show. And I can't wait to see you coming up at the next thing. I don't know, probably Florida, I guess we'll see each other. Or maybe I'm going to try and come to Chattanooga too. I'm going to see if I can make
I think you would enjoy Chattanooga. I think you would. And you'll meet some people. Hey, you might make some good business connections too. That never hurts. It helps you pay your expenses traveling around, But yeah, man, fantastic. Always great seeing you, man. And it was great to get to hang out up with you and the guys, Jeff and Cody and everybody up there and in Chicago area, Rosemont, I guess it was. But yeah, man, nice dinners, nice people. People brought their kids along, which was great because, all the kids are always so well behaved. I mean, whether they're AJ's kids, AJ and Charlene, or whether they're Delorian's kids, I mean, man, these people got great kids too. But along with that, think about it, the stability of the people that are in the hobby and the business, the decency of these people, plus the amount of learning tools you can learn through hobby, the coins or the notes or the silver. I mean, a lot of these kids are smarter and they're a little bit more advanced than I was when I was that age. I was catching turtles and running around in the creek. You know what I mean?
They have the access to the internet. That's the thing.
But again, they still obviously need to stay real well-rounded. But yeah, man, great people, great kids, and we always have a nice time. It's always fantastic to see you keep doing what you're doing, because you guys that are coming along, the next generation, remember, you one day will probably be sitting here on the other side, because one day after you learn all this stuff, after I finish teaching you, you're going to have to take over when I can't do it anymore. You and Jeff and all you guys are going to have to pick up the torch just like I did from Archie and from Clarence and stuff. So one day it will be y'all's time,
Well, we're going to try.
Pay attention. Pay attention.
I'm trying.
But I appreciate you guys and all you guys do. And just remember, one day y'all guys are going to have to transfer a little bit from being what you're doing to doing more what we're doing to a little bit to help pass along too, because that's the only way it can continue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as things grow and it's less demanding on me and I can deploy other people to take care of a lot of the business.
And at our age, we can now. I'm in my late 50s, middle 50s, and now we can travel a little bit more and goof off a little bit more. Where back in the day when we had schedules and had to work more and this and that, we couldn't. So you guys will have your time, man. Just enjoy your life and do what you're doing. And as you progress through fantastically, as I know you will, then, I mean, you're a superstar in my book already, but man, you're just going to do better and better things in life, man. You really will. I know this, man.
It's just one day at a time.
I'm a good judge of people. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. Good upbringing, good home life like you had, and decent people around you, and you know how to conduct yourself. And that's why I believe you are going to do well in life. But I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, I could talk for 10 hours. You do have a mute. Let's mute me out.
No, not. Well, definitely when we get in person, we could do it. But for the internet, we'll cut it short.
Yeah. You know how it goes with me. I can't help myself.
But I love that, though. I love that about you, man. That's one of the cool things.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. You too.
You take care.
Talk to you later.
Later.
All right. Bye-bye.